Okay, in this video we are going to see how SAP's authentication process works, and then using an example of transaction SU01, we will see how SAP security works in the SAP system. Okay, now to log in to an SAP system, every individual, every person who wants to log into the SAP system needs to have an ID in the system. Okay, if a user does not have an ID in the SAP system, he or she cannot log into that system. Okay, it's like any other business application which follows the user authentication concept. Okay, unless you have a user ID, you cannot access the application. Okay, now what you see here is the SAP logon screen. So when you double click on the system entry on the logon pad, you'll get the logon screen. Okay, now to log on to the for a user to log into the SAP system, SAP goes through some authentication steps to determine whether the person who is trying to log in is a valid user or not. Okay, now for example, one of the first authentications checks that the SAP system makes is whether the client in which the user is trying to log in, if that client exists in the SAP in that particular system or not. For example, if I say 989 and my ID is genuine, which means I know that this ID exists now. Okay, and I know the password also. But when I give the correct user ID and a password, the system is going to first check whether this particular client exists in the SAP system or not. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you will see client 989 is not available in the system. So it looks for the first step in the authentication is whether a client that the user is trying to log into, that is a valid client or not. So if it is not a valid client, it is going to give you an appropriate message at the bottom of the screen. Okay, now let's assume the client is valid. Okay, next the user checks, the system checks whether the user is correct or not, whether the user exists in the SAP system or not. Right? I'll give this password. In this case, the message is not clear. Okay? Now, for example, in this case, I know this ID doesn't exist. Okay, so when I hit the enter key, it says, okay, if I give the password, it says password or name is incorrect. Which one is incorrect, it doesn't know right now. We don't know. For example, now if I say the correct user ID, I know this user ID exists, and give a wrong password. Oops, goes away. Let's try again. It still gives you the same message. Okay, but it's going to first check whether the ID exists or not. If the ID exists, then it is going to check for the password is correct or not. Okay, now let's say if I enter the right password, it's going to let me log in. Okay, now you got that box because I am already logged into a session. I'm already logged on. That's why you got that options whether, Now, oops, my mistake. We don't need this. Now let's go and check with a demo user ID now. So you understood the initial authentication process, how it checks. Only when the parameters on the logon screen match with the information that is there in the SAP system, only then it will allow the user to get into the system. Okay? First it checks whether the client is valid or not. Next it checks whether the user ID is valid or not. And if the user ID is valid, then it's going to check whether the password is valid or not. Only if everything matches, it will allow you to go into the system. Okay. Now, another thing that it checks before it lets you into the system or not, provided the client is correct and the user is correct, exists, the first thing that it checks when you enter the password is whether this password is an initial password or not. Okay?
What's the initial password?
Initial password meaning like I created your email ID, right? And I asked you to log on to sappoint.com. Then that was the initial password I gave you, so that you can get into the system. But after that, you have the option of changing the password. In SAP, it will first check whether the password that you have entered is initial or not. How does it check whether it's an initial or not? It goes and checks the USR02 table because you have password related fields there. So it will check for the initial password field value. Okay? If it finds something there, then it is going to tell you it's an initial password and it is going to give you a logon to enter it will ask you to change the password.
Okay.
So this will happen every time you reset a password also. So many times what happens is users forget the password, right? Then they call you and say, or send an email to you and say, can you reset my password? So you go to SE01 and reset the password. Okay? So once you give the new password to the user, when he logs in or she logs in, the system will prompt him to change the password again. Okay? Now here is the difference now between the older versions and the newer versions. This password length is a big change. There are a couple of things here as far as passwords are concerned. Differences between the old version and then this version, ECC 6 is concerned. One of the things is in ECC 6, the password is case sensitive.
Okay.
Okay, meaning you can use uppercase, lowercase kind of characters to as your password. In older versions, it was not like that. Uppercase or lowercase, it didn't matter. The lower versions would take any case. Here, it is very case sensitive. Okay, that's a big difference between the older versions and this ECC 6 onwards. Okay. Now, another big difference is in older versions, the password length at the maximum you could have is max. You could have was 8 characters. Okay. In this version, the maximum that you can have a password is of 40 characters. Okay, but who remembers by 40 characters? But if you think your password 8 characters is not good enough for you, you have the option for using up to 40 characters. Okay. Now here, if you see this is the information giving. Okay, this icon is information. Okay. Wherever you see this icon, it's an information icon or documentation. Okay, remember that. So entry is case sensitive. So if I log into and it will log me in. once I change the password. So next time when I want to log in, I have to use this password that I just entered. Okay, it's the same thing with that email thing. If you have changed the password, next time you have to use that new password that you've given. Okay, now see, this is what I was telling you in that navigation thing. Now this demo user ID, right, that are used to log in has been assigned a role, and that role contains 3 transaction codes. Let's put the technical names on. That contains 3 transaction codes, SU56, SU01 and SU53. Okay, now this is the user menu. See here, user menu for this user. This is active now, right? If I want to switch to SAP menu, I can switch to SAP menu. If I want to switch to a user menu, I can switch to user menu. So in the user menu, when you click on the user menu, it will display the transaction codes from the role or roles that is assigned to the user. Okay? Now, you understood the log on screen authentication, right? First it checks whether the client exists or not. Then it checks whether user ID is valid or not. If the user ID is valid, it is going to check whether password is initial. First of all, it is correct or not, whatever you have entered on the log on screen. Next, it's going to check if it is correct. It is going to check whether it's the initial password or an old password. If it is an initial password, it will ask you, the system will prompt the user to change the password.
Okay.
If it is an already used password, it gets you into the system. Okay. Now that is the authentication steps the SAP takes to get the user into the system. Now, why does the user get into the system, use SAP system to perform his job, right? Now, the tasks that he performs as part of his job in the SAP system, those tasks are represented by transaction codes. Okay? Right? And for example, in this user, the demo user, is one of his tasks that the task that he used to do is to create user IDs. So that particular task, creating user IDs, is represented in the SAP system by the transaction code SU01. Okay. Now, I want to create a user ID now. Now, once the user wants to perform a particular task, there are some more authentication process, some steps that are taken by that SAP system takes. I won't say authentication, it is some authorization checks the SAP system makes for that particular user ID. Okay. Now, one of the first checks when a user executes a transaction code is whether the transaction code is logged or not. Okay. If, for example, I'll give you a demo on this. Okay. See, now let's say, for example, I executed, right? Because I have access to the transaction code. That's why it got executed. Okay. Now that's not the point now. That's not the first check that it makes. The first check it makes is, I'll open up another session. So I opened a new session, for example. Now let me go to transaction SM01. Okay. This you don't need to do, but just imagine. Lock. Right. The first check that the SAP system makes is when you execute a transaction code is whether the transaction code is logged or not. So if it is logged, it will display a message at the bottom of the screen whether the transaction code is logged. That means you cannot use the transaction code. Even if the roles give you the access, Because the transaction code is locked, you cannot use it. Okay, that's the first check as part of the authorizations which the SAP system makes, whether the transaction code can be used at all in the system or not. No, whether it is you or somebody else, doesn't matter. Whether you have access or not, doesn't matter. Whether it can be used or not. Okay, that's what it checks. So I'll remove this lock now. Okay. See, once the system, if I remove the lock, okay. What? Let's do it again. Okay, we probably have to log off and log in again, probably. Let's try this. So I'll log off and log in again, and then we'll execute it again, okay? Hold on. Okay, so I logged off and logged in again. Now let's execute the transaction code. It goes. Okay. Now, it goes to the transaction code because you have access to it. Okay, but that's not the first check, the second check it makes. Now, okay, the second check it makes is whether you have access to the transaction code or not, okay? So let's assume I execute a transaction code which I don't have access to, right? Okay, so how does the system know whether I have access to or not? We'll see. So if I execute a transaction code, it says you're not authorized to use the transaction code PFCG because I don't have access to it. When I imagine I'm here in the SAP menu, now I don't see what transaction codes I have access or not, right? Now I execute a transaction code. It says you're not authorized because that means I don't have access to the transaction code. So the second check it makes is whether the user has access to the transaction code or not. If it doesn't have, user does not have an access to the transaction code, you'll get a message called you're not authorized to use the so-and-so transaction code. If you are authorized to use the transaction code, then it takes you to the initial first screen of the transaction that you executed. Follow? Now, how does the system know, okay, whether a user has access to perform or execute certain transaction codes in the system? Okay. So if you want to do something work in the SAP system, right, the basic first step is executing the transaction code related to the task that you want to perform. Okay? Followed? Huh? Now, but how does the system know? If I go to this user menu, I know what transaction code I can see, what I can execute, right? But how does the system determine whether you can execute SU01 or you cannot execute XT01? There should be some mechanism, right? And this is important concept, okay? Concentrate and listen. When a user logs into the SAP system, okay, a user buffer is created for that particular user, okay? And in that buffer, depending on the authorizations that are assigned to the user through roles, okay, the authorizations for the user who was logged in, those authorizations will be entered in the user's buffer. So if, for example, now you can see the user buffer using the transaction SU56. Okay, these are your authorizations. Okay, if you look at Oops, sorry, this is something new. This is a failed, right? That's why I came. Don't worry about this one. This is a new feature they added here. This is the s underscore t code. Okay. Now, if you look at the role, you'll see the same objects in the buffer. Okay. So whatever objects and authorizations, these are the authorizations. Okay. S underscore func 16 star star, right? Activity is 16 star star. So depending on whatever authorizations are you have in the role, those authorizations are loaded into the buffer. Okay. Now this is where it's important. The most important authorization object. These are all authorization objects. Okay. P underscore T code, S underscore C func, user AGR, user EUT, GRP. These are called authorization objects. Okay. These determine, authorization objects determine whether you have access to perform a particular task or not. Okay. Now you have only 3 transaction codes, right?
Yeah.
For example, in S underscore T code, if you look, you have only access to 3 transaction code. But if you look, there are so many objects. Each object has a specific purpose for a transaction code. Okay. For example, this object I need if I want to assign roles to user IDs. Okay, roles. So I should be able to display the roles, right, which are there in the SAP system in order to assign them, right? This object controls the display of the roles. Okay, this object for SU01, this is the most important object because this object controls what kind of activities you can perform in SU01. Whether you can create a user ID, change a user ID, display a user ID. Okay? You following? So the authorization objects determine what you can or cannot do in a transaction code. So for example, now I don't have access to delete, which is value 06 here, right? I don't have access to value 06. So when I go to SU01 and try to delete a user ID, it will not allow me to do it because this object doesn't contain the appropriate authorization for delete. You following? So this controls, we'll see how it controls. Okay, I'll give you a demo. This is exactly what I just said, deleting. We'll see what I mean. Okay, so what happens is, okay, this is very important. Okay, this is the most important object. Okay, now this determines whether you can use a transaction code or not. This is your first line of defense in the SAP system. If a particular transaction code that you want to execute does not exist as a value for this object, S underscore T code object, if a transaction code does not exist, hear me out, if a transaction code does not exist as a value for this authorization object, S underscore T code, which is start transaction code, then you cannot execute the transaction code. For example, I tried to execute XK01, right? That's why it failed, right? That's why it failed here, right? Right? It's not there. Executed XK01. It's not there. So I was not able to use it. It said you're not authorized to use transaction XK01, right? Why? Because XK01 does not exist as the value for this object, S underscore T code object. So here's the thing, whatever you do on the screen, right? Whatever you do, whatever transaction code you execute, once you get into the transaction code, whatever you do, the system is going to come and do a check in the buffer whether you have the appropriate or proper authorizations or not. Okay? What I mean by that is, I'll give you a demo now, okay? So the first line of defense, okay? Remember, first line of defense is this, S underscore T code, whether you can start a transaction code or not. I showed you that. I executed this. It does. So what it does, the moment you entered XK01 on the screen, executed transaction code, XK01, the system will immediately come to the buffer and look for this object because it knows that you started a transaction code. It looks for this object, it finds that object, and then it goes to the list of values for this object, S underscore T code, and checks whether XK01 is a value within that object. If it finds it, it will take you to the screen, the transaction code screen. If it doesn't find it, it will say you're not authorized. Okay? So every time you do something on the screen, an authentication check is made for the authorizations, whether you're authorized or not, in the user's buffer. Okay? Now we'll see what I mean by that. Okay, you understood this thing, right? The moment you executed a transaction code, it goes to the buffer, looks for S underscore T code object, looks whether the transaction code is a value for S underscore T code in the buffer or not. If it finds it, fine, it takes you to the screen. If it doesn't find it, it will give you are not authorized sharer. Now let's go and I'll open up another session, okay? Just for making it easy for you. Now I will execute the transaction SU01 because I have access to that. Okay, so let's go and execute SU01 now. Now, when I execute SU01, I get to the SU01 screen because the system is going to check for S underscore T code when I execute the transaction code. It is going to check for whether if the value SU01 exists in the buffer or not. It finds it, then it takes you to the screen. Now, I can enter a user ID and hit create. Okay? The system will let me start creating the user ID because it is going to the object that controls your user administration tasks is S underscore user underscore GRP. So when I hit the create icon, okay, there's another thing I wanted to forgot to tell you. Okay, these icons are constant, meaning when whichever screens you see this page icon, that's always create. Wherever you see this pencil icon, that's always change. If you see a pencil, edit or change. If wherever you see a pencil with a glasses on it, within the same icon, that's a toggle between change and display. Okay? In the same icon, if you see a pencil and a glass, that is a toggle between a change and a display. If you see only glasses, that's a display. Wherever you see this trash can, that's a delete. Wherever you see this two icons, two page icons, that's a copy. It's always the same, okay, no matter where you are. If any of these icons appear, that's what they mean. Wherever you see this thing, that's a lock, and this icon will only be there in SU01 because that's for password. Okay. Okay. So what happens is now I enter a user ID, right? And I hit create icon. The moment I hit create icon, right, it is going to check where in the buffer whether I have this object or not. Okay, now I'll give you the demo now. What I mean by that. Now let me modify that role that gives access to this transaction, right? How you'll see how it works. Now let's assume this object, I don't give access to this object at all. Okay. Now if I go back and execute SU56, see that object is not there. User underscore grp is not there because in the role I deactivated it, right? Now I can go back, I'll go back and execute the transaction SU01 again. Doesn't let you execute also because this object is the key, the main object for SU01. Okay. Now, if I want to execute SU01, I need to give access to this object, right? Now let's assume I don't give him the create option. Okay. Now if I go back and execute SU53, SU56 again, that object shows up. Right. Now if I go and execute SU01, it works. But when I click on create, it says you're not authorized to create users. Because, okay, so why is it not authorized? What authorization was needed? You can go and execute the transaction SU53. This transaction you will see when you do troubleshooting. Okay, you will see this. Now this transaction code tells me what values were needed for me to create user IDs. So I needed this object with this value. So what happens is when you go and when the user hits the create icon, okay, what it does is the system goes to the buffer, looks for this object. Okay. Now depending, once it finds that object in the buffer, it is going to see, okay, this guy clicked on create. Okay. So it is going to say, okay, I need this object. So I find this object. So I got this object now, but he clicked on the create icon. So which means I want the activity to be 01. Okay. So it goes to the activity field. You don't have 01. And that is where when you click on create, it says you're not authorized. So every action that you take on the SAP transaction codes is checked whether you have the authorizations or not, is checked in the user's buffer. Now let's assume I give him this access, right? So now see, it failed at the first field level. Okay, it first failed at the first field level. Now if I do this, okay, this probably, now let me create a user ID. Is there now? and the user group is developer. Now what? Okay, now see, I just started, right? I'm just saying create a user ID. So I have the create access now. I start the process of creating the user ID, right? Now you have a field called user group, right? Now this field is linked to this field in the object. So whatever value I give here, okay, that affects when I start creating a user ID. For example, if I say, see, what it means is now I'm authorized to create user IDs for the group developer now. Okay. Now let's see what happens. So what did it do? So let's go to the authorization checks process from the beginning now. First check it made was whether the transaction code is there in this object or not, s_t code or not. If it doesn't find, it gives an authorization error. If it finds, it takes you to the initial screen of the transaction code. Followed? Right. Every time you do something on the SAP screen, remember, it checks in the buffer whether you have the authorizations or not. Authorizations are made up of objects and values. Okay, that is authorizations. Okay, it finds the transaction code. Now, once you get into the transaction code, you start doing some tasks, some activities, right? Then, depending on what you're doing, the remaining objects are called. The system looks for the remaining objects in the buffer. So in SU01, this is the object it looks for. I started creating an ID. Okay. I clicked on create icon. It goes to the activity field, checks whether I have the create access or not. We saw that. If you didn't have, it says you are not authorized to create. If you have create access, it goes to, lets you start creating the user ID. Now, there's another field left, right? There's a user group field. Now, what this role tells you is, access tells you is, I can assign or create user IDs belonging to the group developer. And how is that controlled in the transaction code? In this field. In this example, okay? Now let's assume I give any other user. So when I save the user ID, right? The system is going to check. Okay, it bypassed 01 because it allowed me to create, right? Now it's going to check whether I'm allowed to create user IDs belonging to developer or not. I'm authorized to do that. But now what happens when you save, right? It's going to check, okay, I created it. Now it's going to check for this field value. I entered demo. I'm trying to create a user ID belonging to the group demo, right? So it takes the values for the user group, goes to the buffer and verifies whether demo exists as a value for this field, user group field in this object. Okay? Now, let's see what happens if I save. It says you're not authorized to create users in the group demo. Okay, now if I go, now let's execute, let me execute the transaction SU53. Now you'll see what I mean, okay? I entered demo, right? It let me create. Why? Because for this object, the system was looking for this combination of values. To create the user ID, in our example that you just saw, the system was looking for this combination of values for this object. But in the buffer, you have 0, 1, that's fine, right? It was looking for 0, 1, right? In the buffer, it found 0, 1. But it was actually looking for the value demo in the buffer. But what did it find? It only has developer. So the combination of values didn't match for the object. For what the user was doing on the screen in the transaction code with what the user is authorized. That combination didn't match. So that's why you're not able to create user IDs. Right? Now let's assume instead of demo, I say developer, right? Now, I executed a transaction code, fine. It brought me to the screen because s underscore t code has su01 in the buffer, right? Now what did I do? I clicked on create. It let me get in. Now, entered the value I'm trying to save. I entered a value here, developer. Now when I save, the system is going to check, okay, he entered developer here. I need this object, s underscore user underscore grp. It already found it because it allowed you to create user ID, start creating user IDs. He's going to see, okay, the user entered developer here. Okay, let me go and check in the buffer whether the user has authorization for developer group. Okay, it goes to the buffer and sees, okay, developer here, developer here. So he has access to the transaction code, he has access to the object, he has access to the activity, he has access to the group. So everything matched. So save, when you save it, it gets saved.
And if we have something else besides this developer, it won't allow you.
It will not allow you.
Because it's not in the
Okay, for example, now let's go and enter something else. Okay, I don't know if this will be so valid or not because there are spaces here. Because transaction code access is there, object is there in the buffer, activity 01 is there in the buffer, but there is a mismatch between the user group that you entered against what you are authorized in the buffer. Okay, that's why you cannot. Unless you give this what you are authorized, it will not let you save. Or you leave it blank. This is a bug. Okay, I think in my opinion, it's a bug. Because if you don't enter anything here, right, it still lets you save.
Is it not mandatory?
That's not a mandatory field. Okay. SAP should have made that mandatory, but it didn't.
Okay. But it won't allow the tasks of the user group.
No, it will. Now it will, because I can do whatever I want, because this user ID is not associated with any group.
Okay. So he can do the task from any of the groups.
No, not the task from the groups. See, user groups is only a categorization of user IDs, okay? It's only for categorization purposes. But yeah, from security standpoint, this is what you can use it for. And I'll tell you what that purpose is. Okay? Now let's go and check. Okay, let me delete this user ID. Now tell me whether it will allow me to delete. I'm looking at this buffer, right? Okay, this is a buffer. The delete is 06.
It's not there.
Okay. Do you think you should allow me to delete that user ID now?
It won't let you delete.
Okay, let's try that. This user ID created, I want to delete. Okay, it doesn't. Why? Okay, let me close this for a minute, okay? These two. Okay, you want to delete, it says you're not authorized to delete. Why? Now let's see what. How does it work? Okay. The system to delete that user ID was looking for this combination of values, 06 or anything. Okay. Now in the user buffer, go to the user buffer, user GRP is there, system was looking for 06. Does it find 06 here? No. That's why you're not authorized to delete.
Can we add 06 in here?
No.
So in that window.
Now you can assign it here. You can modify the role,
Okay.
then it will work. Now okay, let's go and add 06 here. Okay, for delete. Okay, let's say generated. If I go back, hopefully this should work. Now if you go here and look at this object activity, you have 06 here now. Okay. Now let's go to user maintenance and not delete this user ID. Now see, it lets you delete. Okay.
It won't match all the other activities.
No, let's see. Let's see. Now see, in this case, okay. In this case, it will allow me to delete because this is not assigned to any group. Now let's assume I put it into a group. First of all, it will not let me. Okay, the good example would be this one of those things we noted down, right? Oh, what is that? W Wilson. What was that? Admin group.
Wilson W.
Wilson W. Let's take the user ID Wilson W. Now this Wilson W user ID belongs to the group admin. Okay. See. So I cannot display the user ID also. Let's see why I'm not able to display this user ID. Let's check that out. Let's close this for a minute and execute why I cannot display that user ID. See, if I cannot display, that means I cannot delete it also, right? Is it 53? Now let's take a look at this object.
/o is
That's
troubleshooting. Okay.
okay. So it is looking for the value 03, which was for display. In the buffer, it will find 03. It has 03. But that Wilson, that ID, this ID, Wilson W, belongs to the user group admin, right? But in the buffer, the user is authorized to do the user administration for the group developer. That's why he cannot even display. So there's no question of deleting also or modifying also, because the user does not have access to the group admin.
So we have to change the user group in order to display or delete.
Right. You know, not change. You need to have access to it, access to that group. So for example, if I, instead of here, if I say admin, right? Now the buffer, if you go back, activity you have 03, right? And the user group now, you have authorizations for admin and developer, both. Now if I say display now, it will display. If I say delete, it will let me delete, because now the user has authorization for admin as well as developer group. But if the ID belongs to any other group, it will not let you do anything.
What is 8?
What 8?
Number 0.
That is this password reset.
Password reset.
Okay, number 05 is lock unlock.
Okay.
So it will not let me lock unlock also, because I don't have access to lock unlock. So let's go and execute SU53. Right? So /o SU53. So 05. Admin is there now. See, in the buffer, access to the group admin is there, but the activity 05 is not here. So it doesn't, so the entire authorization check does not match from what you're doing on the screen to what you're authorized. That authorizations are in the buffer. So that check doesn't match. So if the checks don't match completely, then you get authorization errors. Only if all the checks are successful, it lets you proceed further. You following? So remember, whenever a user logs in, a buffer which is created with the user's authorizations in it. And this is only temporary. Huh? The moment you log off, this is gone. So next time when you log on, again it's loaded back, whatever is current at the time.
So you need to save every time whenever you change this.
No, you don't go through this transaction codes every day.
Okay.
Just for the demo purposes, I'm explaining to you to show you how security works, authentication or authorizations work. When user does something on the screen, SAP screens, how is he allowed to do his tasks, or why he gets authorization errors? Because of these kinds of checks. Okay, just because you have access to the transaction code doesn't mean that you can do certain functionality of the transaction code. For example, I didn't have access to 06. I had access to the transaction code 01, SU01, but I didn't have access to deleting, so I can't do it. Okay, but simply, what I mean is, by simply having access to the transaction code doesn't mean that you can do everything within the transaction code. What you can do within the transaction code is controlled by authorization objects.
Okay.
You following?
Yeah. Can you show me how to go to the window and change this activity?
No, that is for the roles.
Okay.
Roles. That will come next. When you do role administration, you'll understand this better. Okay, how to create roles, modify roles, that kind of stuff. You following?
Yeah. Tell me how to go this app window.
Which one?
This whole
The screen.
This role screen?
screen.
No, don't worry about it right now.
Okay.
This we'll do next week.
Okay.
Okay? Do you think this is interesting?
It's really part. All right.
We'll have to put interest in it.
You followed?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that is how SAP security works. Okay, so you have to understand the concept of the buffer. You have to understand the buffer concept. You have to understand the significance of the object S_T code mainly, because if a transaction code does not exist as a value
In the app.
in S_T code object in the buffer, you cannot execute that particular transaction code. Okay, because S_T code is also called as is considered your first line of defense in the SAP system. So only if somebody want to breach your defenses, you have to cross, right?
Right.
So if you can get to a transaction code only when you cross the authentication in S_T code. Okay, so you understand this buffer concept, understand the significance of S_T code. That's very important. Okay, now is this useful what you just saw from your jobs point of view? Probably not that much, but this understanding this concept definitely helps in troubleshooting.
And user administration.
Not troubleshooting. What I showed you was a user administration as a demo.
Okay.
But the same concept applies to any functional transaction code also. Okay, so every time you enter let's say VA01 or XK01, whatever you want trying to do, the authorizations related to that particular transaction code will be loaded into the buffer. And depending on what you are doing in XK01 or VA01, the authorizations will be checked against what you have in the buffer. Okay. Now, there's